The Big Ten Media Days was here in Minneapolis, so we got all the latest and greatest from the coaches and their programs and a couple of the players as well. We're diving in deep today on Locked On Golden Gophers, and you're not going to want to miss all the action.
Hey, you are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Now, we've been talking a lot about football, a lot about the Illinois versus Gophers matchup. Today, we are going to talk a little bit of Golden Gophers basketball. Be sure to follow wherever you get your podcasts at Locked On Golden Gophers, and be sure to subscribe on YouTube, where we are building the community. We're getting closer to our goal of 500 subscribers, where we will be giving away a free Dinkytown Athletes t-shirt of that winner's choice. So be sure to subscribe so you can be entered into that drawing. Now, let's dive in, because the Big Ten Media Days officially happened in Minneapolis over the past 48 hours, and we attended, especially for day 2, when the Gophers were there and present. We had Coach Ben Johnson, Coach Lindsay Whalen, Jamison Battle, Alanna Micheaux, and Katie Borowicz, all in attendance for the Gophers, and we got a lot of good information. We're going to dive into a lot of clips from that evening that I took just for you, the listeners, giving you that latest and greatest right from the source. So when it comes to these programs, we're going to talk about just media notes on the women's team, and then we're going to dive into the men's team, and then we'll close the show with some final thoughts on both programs. Now, for the women's program, to kick this thing off, Coach Whalen opened the intro presser answering question about what excites her the most with this young team and with the high talented recruiting class that they brought in. And here is what Coach Whalen had to say.
Yeah, I think just that excitement that just that work and getting this recruiting class here, and them coming in with that excitement, along with Katie, who I mentioned, and Rose, and Maggie, who were here last year and have taken some really big steps, as I mentioned, in leadership and some different aspects as leaders on our team, as well as some transfers that we've had come in. And so, but there's no question that's a group that's really special. They're very talented on and off the floor. So very excited to continue to work with them and see what they can do. That we know that this is, they're freshmen, so it's going to be, Big Ten is, I said earlier, every night is like playing in the NCAA tournament, because the competition is so good, and every year half, if not more, of our teams go to the NCAA tournament. So every night is that, and so it'd be exciting for them and see them continue to grow and continue to get better.
Now, like we know, this team is very youthful, and with the youth, with players who are unfamiliar, that has also changed up how Coach Whalen is running things this season when it comes to the practices, especially in the early stages of the practice sessions. And so she elaborated on that as well, and here is what she had to say about that reevaluation.
Yeah, I think the other day I had everybody raise their hands if you played with the person next to you last year, and through lots of different circumstances, nobody was able to raise their hand because nobody played. Maybe Maggie and Rose might have been out there, in practice and things, and Katie towards the end of the season was in practice, but other than that, nobody else has had any true minutes together, non-conference or conference or the otherwise. And so yeah, I've done more. It's hard because I think another theme, just in talking with a lot of the coaches, has been wanting to keep everybody healthy at this point of the season. Everybody's, got to stay healthy. But the only way to get in basketball shape is to get up and down. So I've scrimmaged a lot more against our scout team than I ever have before. And so we're going to scrimmage today, and then we're going to only scrimmage tomorrow. So we can start to work through some of these times of adversity and ups and downs and everything. So in the past, last year we have 5 seniors, 5 graduate transfer seniors. We had, a lot of juniors. Our freshman class, Katie wasn't able to play. Maggie was hurt off and on. So last year we were a much older team. So our time, quote unquote training camp or preseason that we're in right now looked a lot different than it did this year. This year I need them to get up and down. So the first time we do play it's not the first time that we're getting up and down together. Not that we didn't scrimmage last year, but it's been more top of mind this year. We're actually, all right, 10 minutes on the clock. We're working on different situations. So I've made that more of an emphasis this year than ever before.
Now, overall, both programs, the men's and women's, include a lot of youth, a lot of players that are going to step up in their early years, whether that be redshirt freshmen, true freshmen, sophomores, you name it. And we've talked a lot about the youth, but that also means younger players stepping up into leadership roles. Now, Rose Micheaux talked about embracing a more vocal leadership role and also talked about the players taking on more accountability upon themselves as well. And here is what her response was when asked about embracing that vocal leadership role.
For me, I would say it's different because last year I really wasn't that vocal person, kind of, to say, but this year now I don't know what the word is. Now I'm more eager to step up and encourage and help my teammates and push them in the right direction, huddle, get the team into a huddle. Recently we've been doing a lot of team huddles, a lot of mental resets, but it's not the coach that's doing that, it's us. But it takes a lot to be that vocal person that the team needs.
So we know that there's a lot of young players on this team. We know that there are 4 freshmen that bring in the highest rated recruiting class of this program's history for the women's basketball program. And we have the class right before them, 3 of those players sticking around as well. That's 7 players scholarshiped on this team that are in that freshman and sophomore classes. Now, it's not just youth on the team though. And I asked Coach Whalen, with the ever-growing importance and prevalence of the transfer portal to college sports, what did she look for when it came to talking to players or specifically targeting players in the transfer portal? And here's what she had to say when it came to the transfer portal and their approach this offseason.
Well, that's part of I think the new reality. I mean, every year you want everybody to come back. You want your whole team to come back. You just essentially, when we had different players going in the transfer portal, you start to just fill needs. You try to fill, obviously, we got 2 grad transfers, so you're trying to get some experience too. We tried to get some size. We felt good, although technically Katie's a freshman and Amaya's a freshman. We felt pretty good there. The fact that Katie's been with us for 3 years as far as point guard. Just tried to shore up some positions and trying to bring in, different players of need and different players that I could add to not only playing but personality-wise and culture-wise to the team. And we've got a couple walk-ons that I haven't had before, but I think I'll carry 1 or 2 walk-ons for the foreseeable future. And I think that's something that has helped our team. They have they've been great. They're we're grateful to have them, and they've been grateful for the opportunity. So it's I think all that is just what the transfer portal brings, and it's our reality. It's what it is.
Now, me personally, I found it very interesting the entire bit of it, but also the walk-on contribution and how she will be really looking to have at least one or two walk-ons in her time for the foreseeable future. And that was a nice tidbit. That was a nice little bit of information that I feel like we don't get too often. So love to hear that. I will be very curious to see how much those transfer players will be incorporated this season. It sounds as though the class from last year and the class from this year are going to be heavy in that rotation. Like I said, that's 7 players now. One of them, Nehemiah Holloway, is out for the season. She had a knee injury in the summer, and so she will be out. But that's still 6 players within the rotation that look to be getting a healthy and key amount of minutes. But outside of that, who are the transfer players that are going to step up into that rotation, into prominence, into bigger roles? That will be something to keep an eye on as we move forward with the women's basketball team this season. Now, with all of those players, I asked Coach Whalen who surprised her the most so far in these early sessions, in this early going stages of practices, and this is what Coach Whalen had to say.
Maggie's had a really good fall. Maggie's been really good. She's healthy. She's feeling good. I think yesterday she had a closeout to a shooter that just had a different pace than I had seen her. And she's just coming back from, she had a few days where she just had a nagging little thing that she had going on. So she just pace that she's playing at is different than last year. She's healthy and feeling good. Despite this week was pretty, just kind of a tweak. So she's been healthy. She's been good. She's been fun to watch.
You love to hear it. There's growth all over the program, and players are developing more and more. It's a great spot to be in as you are rebuilding. But some final thoughts on the women's basketball program come from the players themselves, Katie Borowicz and Rose Micheaux. Now, first, Katie was asked about it herself and the other 2 players that returned from her class, and if they ever considered transferring with all of their teammates entering the portal and with so many people on the move. Did they ever consider it themselves as well? And this is what Katie had to say, and I thought it was a great perspective that she brought to the media.
So me, Maggie, and Rose, all 3 of us, yes, we had talked about we want to leave the past in the past. We were like, everyone's transferred, everyone's left, this is what we have right now. So we talked about sticking together, and we need to build right now what we want the next year to be. So we really worked on communication, trusting each other, talking outside of the court, hanging out with each other, building that chemistry before people even got on the court. And then for the fact of leaving, I had no doubt. There wasn't a single thought in my mind that was like, oh, I should go somewhere else. I believed in the coaching staff, and I know that they believed in me. It's like, why would I leave?
So with that thought and with that response, that also brought an interesting question to mind for me as the Gophers take on Virginia this season in one of their non-conference games, where a former player, Alexia Smith, will be on the roster for the Virginia Cavaliers. And we also take on Indiana University, whom Sarah Scalia, former Gopher and leader on the team, one of the best 3-point shooters in the nation, transferred within the conference. So I asked Katie if those games on the schedule bring any feelings or extra motivation by playing those those former teammates. And here's what Katie had to say to us at the press conference.
I am very excited. I'm very excited to play all teams since I've been out a year. But I'd say since the teammates are maybe my position, that almost gives it more of a energizing feeling, because I may be particularly either guarding or playing against them one-on-one. So right. Just excited in general.
So you love that, the little extra spice, the looking forward to playing players of her same position that she used to battle against day in and day out at practice, and that'll be when it counts on the floor in those games. But my favorite moment with the women's basketball program at the Big Ten Media Days maybe my favorite moment in the entire Big Ten media days as a whole came from Rose Micheaux when she was asked by someone in the media if the Gophers' lack of discussion as a true player in the Big Ten rankings, being considered as one of those teams that can really make some noise, if that motivates the players at all. And here's what Rose had to say.
Yeah, I like it because it gives the opportunity to show you guys, like, you guys don't think we're like top notch now, and like that's what you expect for like a team that's like starting over again. And it gives us the opportunity to show you guys what you're missing out on, like showing you like not to assume because you don't know like what's really cooking in the kitchen, you know?
So the women's team has youth, it has fire, it has drive, and although this season will focus a lot on the growth and the development of these younger players, don't fully count out the Gophers because they have something cooking up. And with back-to-back recruiting classes, they are ready to put in the work and help this program continue to be on the rise. Now, before we shift over to the men's basketball side of things, I do want to talk about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one spot when it comes to sports wagering information. If you want more lines, more props, and more odds than ever before, then you need to check out BetOnline. They've got live betting, they've got a virtual casino, they've got anything you can think of when it comes to sports wagering information. In fact, you can go on there right now and find the odds for the former Panthers head coach, Matt Rule, who was recently fired, what his next job, what are the odds for his next job, which looks to be at the collegiate football level. The odds right now have Nebraska running in front with Auburn right behind and Wisconsin trailing after that. And then 4th and 5th come in with Arizona State and Colorado. You can find more odds like that over at BetOnline. It's a great source and it's where you go for all of your sports wagering information needs. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about the men's basketball team and what we learned from the media days, the Big Ten media days as well. Now, versatility was a big thing for these Gophers, and here's what Coach Ben Johnson had to say in the opening conference presser about the versatility of this team.
Yeah, that was a key component when we were, going into year 2 with recruiting. We were really going to start. Isaiah was probably going to start the 2 at 6'10", and he's versatile. And so, our blueprint was kind of that. If you have versatile pieces that are able to play a variety of styles, to me, not only is that the way that kind of college is trending, but pro is trending. And it's an exciting style, and it gives a coach a little bit more freedom if you do have injuries, if you have those versatile components. And I think, that's how kids want to play. And so for us, we're going to target that in recruiting. If we can add athleticism and versatility and length without compromising the skill part. That's what we're going to try and do. And, I look forward to seeing what this team can do with that next step and how we're looking and how we're going to play.
Now, along with the size and versatility, there is a lot of youth on this team, like we mentioned with the women's program as well. And a lot of that youth on this team will be expected to play early and often this season. And that youth is exciting. But let's hear from Jameson Battle, a.k.a. J-Mo. Let me not switch it up on you. Let's hear his thoughts on what is most impressive from those young guys thus far.
I just think their ability to learn. They're so open, they're so coachable, and I think that's something that you don't really see with a lot of freshmen. And they're just so good at learning. If they make a mistake, they're right back the next play. They're doing what's right, and I think that's a testament to coach. He's able to coach these guys and able to help them understand what's right. So I think they're just so open to learn, and they know that they're going to have an impact this year. So I think they're willing to work in every aspect, and I think that's something really special about these freshmen.
Now, it's not just Jamison Battle who has been impressed in that manner, but I also asked Coach Johnson directly about what has impressed him with players like Braden Carrington and Jaden Henley, and what will they need to improve on as well to take that next step in playing Big Ten basketball. And here's what Coach had to say.
You know, one of the things that impressed me the most is their coachability. You know, neither guy has an ego. Both guys are willing learners. They kind of run to coaching. They got a early, pretty good work habit. You know, they know that they got to get into a routine and get extra work in, and whether it's shots or in the weight room, whether it's prehab or rehab, I mean, they're about their business. And for young guys, you don't always see that. And I think a credit goes to our older guys that have set the tone in just how you conduct and act yourself. And then I think they respond to coaching. You know, it's one thing to be coachable, it's another thing to respond to it, and they've learned and grown every week that we've been going. You know, I think their teammates trust them because they kind of stay in their box. They don't, or have to this point, haven't lost their mind or done anything crazy. But they'll be called upon pieces this year, and obviously big pieces of our program going forward.
Now, although youth may be big on this team, there are still a core of these guys that are experienced and have all the talent to play at a high level in this league, the Big Ten Conference. Coach Johnson spoke on that, and here is the insight and outlook that definitely sends an encouraging message to fans and players alike. Here's what he had to say in response to those core players and what this team's core could do.
You know, I think you guys would all agree, like last year, the Big Ten, that was like historic what we were doing in terms of like NBA talent and NBA draft picks, right? It seems like every team had multiple, and it's no knock this year, but there's not that same, you don't look at it and go, oh man, you know, there's still really good players, but last year was unprecedented. So now it's like, it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of this league. Like we have an older core group where, and I want to tell them that there's nobody that I look at and say, like, in time, you guys can't be just as good or better. And that's with all due respect to the Indianas and the Michigans and the Michigan States who have really good players. But our guys need to feel like, well, they're not significantly better than me, especially over time. So that's our challenge.
Now, of that core and the players with the more experience, Gophers fans know we are more than stoked and excited to see Jamison Battle and Dawson Garcia on the floor together. Those guys are two of the best prep players in the state of Minnesota that are now both playing on the Minnesota Golden Gophers after transferring in from different locations, but they will be key pieces on this team. Like I said, they're in that core, but I asked J-Mo how him and Dawson complement each other, and here is what J-Mo had to say when it came to how their games complement each other on the hardwood.
Yeah, I think just the way we can play inside out, you know, maybe I'm coming off a ball screen set from Dawson can pop, roll, he can do whatever, he can handle the rock, and I think, like you said, we complement each other, you know, and I think he's going to open up a lot for me and the team, and I'm going to open up a lot for him and the team, and I think it just shows that that's the type of kids coaches out here recruiting, and I think the impact that we can have as leaders as well is something that is going to be unmatched for us when it comes down to it.
Now, that's exciting. It's thrilling. I can't wait to see it at Williams Arena, at the barn. And with players like that, paired with the versatility discussed, you find yourself with a lot of players that fit the scheme and the style that Coach Ben Johnson is building and has in mind. Now, you usually see coaches need about 3 to 4 years to get their guys in here and really build things, but it looks like this is going to be a roster jam-packed with players exactly of the athleticism, the size, the build, the capabilities of what Coach Ben Johnson is looking for, and that's great. That is going to be exciting to see things come along. Coach Ben Johnson talked about how, you know, last year they had a lot of veterans because they had a lot of guys from the transfer portal and they started off hot, but things started to kind of tinker down as other teams caught up in their chemistry and their building process. Now, this year might be a little different. We could start off slower, just seeing how guys are meshing together, putting it all together, but on the flip side, expect to see something more solid and gelling and a lot more upside when it comes to the later parts of the season as they start to hit their stride and click as well. But with that, with everything I was just saying, Gophers fans like to think in terms of traditional basketball positions. Your typical point guards, and they facilitate. Your typical shooting guards who can shoot the three. Your typical center who plays in the post. But that is not what Coach Ben Johnson's system is, and it hasn't been that. And now we're getting the right players into the system, like I had mentioned, and I asked Coach Johnson at the Big Ten Media Days, how does this positionless basketball, how does it play to his system, and how important is it, positionless basketball, in his style of play? Here's what Coach Ben Johnson had to say on that front.
It's especially important for how we play offensively. You even look at, because necessarily, whether it's injury or whether it's transfer, it's hard. So if you go through a year and you have a guy that misses some games, if you're a set team, in my opinion, it can be hard because now it's like you're programmed at certain spots. So now new guys might have to completely learn a different position, whereas we call it like flow. If you play in kind of like our flow, you've got to know all those areas and spots from the start. So if a guy goes down, it's not as hard to keep the music going offensively because they kind of know the spots, you know what I mean? Right. So I actually, you think about that, as sick as we are as coaches, when you're trying to figure out what you want to do offensively, I enjoy coaching it, but at the same time, it's easier, if you have to adjust. So, there's that, but I also think it's just, in recruiting, it helps you too. Kids want to play that style because they see it in the NBA. I don't think you see your traditional bigs much anymore. At least we have in the last couple of years. So you got to be creative with that. And I just think the game has changed. Like, guys are more skilled. They're able to dribble, pass, and shoot. And I think the three-point line has changed the game. So I say for all those reasons, and then I just enjoy the versatility. I think when you put yourself in a box as a player, you limit your minute opportunity. Versus to me, it's like if you're versatile, it's going to give you much more opportunity for me to throw you in a game and not be restricted to a certain moment. Right. So we encourage it, we recruit to it, we try to develop it, and I just think it makes for an overall balanced unit out there.
And there it is. Positionless basketball is growing. We've talked about it here on the show. We've talked about it at the NBA level. We saw it in the finals with the Celtics last season. You see it with the Warriors and Draymond playing the 5 at times. It's all over, and it is continuing to develop not only in the pros, but also at the collegiate level as well. And it will be something that could be very fluid and very effective as this recruiting and as Coach Ben Johnson's vision starts to come to fruition. So something to definitely keep an eye on and also get excited about when it comes to this Gophers basketball program. Don't get caught up in only bringing Minnesota kids in, which we've talked about. Don't get caught up on who plays this position. We don't have enough guards. Just sit back, relax, and let the progress happen. Now, the final thing I wanted to discuss was Coach Johnson's message on the NIL and how Minnesota is trying to build the right way and sustainably. Now, he used a great analogy, a great thought process, in my opinion, on NIL and how everyone can get involved, and he likened it to a streaming service. And yes, don't get me wrong, having the big donors, having the big contributors who drop a big lump sum of money for the programs to have, you love it. And you want that, but it's not always the most realistic thing, and it's not something that everybody can sustain. But what can be helpful, and maybe more important, is those who want to contribute and be a part of doing so, but how they are able to do it and maybe doing it in a more feasible way is just as important. If you say each person that wants to get involved is paying $11 a month, similar to that of a streaming service, that adds up to about $130 a year, give or take some dollars here and there. Now, $130 a year contributed by thousands of fans and thousands of people that love Gopher Nation, that adds up quick. So if you have thousands coming in and contributing even that amount, and it's something they can afford without going outside of their means, that money adds up quickly and it helps in more ways than can be imagined. But on top of that, it's sustainable because it's something that's affordable and something that the normal everyday Gophers fan that might not have millions of dollars or big CEO positions, that they can still be involved, contribute, and feel that sense of belonging in helping the program, and also being able to have perks on side of that, getting exclusive interviews from the players, the opportunity to purchase merchandise of those players, and being exclusive with that merchandise if you are a part of Dinkytown Athletes, per se. Things like that help make it more sustainable. So if there's ever a year where a big donation can't come in, you still have the foundation built upon the true Gophers fans and Gopher Nation. So definitely be sure to check out Dinkytown Athletes. Be sure to check out the Twin Cities NIL Club and those things that are building locally and how you can get involved to support your Gophers athletes, because that paired with those bigger contributing large lump sums or corporations that seek to get involved, all of that paired together can help create something really impactful and sustainable for the long term. Now, that was a lot from Coach Ben Johnson, but it was very, very much a great message in my opinion, and something that you like to see not only from the program, but also how we're building outside of the program to help the programs. So that was a lot from the men's team, and next we're going to talk about final thoughts on both of these programs as we head into the season. All right, thank you for listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily Gophers podcast. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and join the community. Drop in the comments what you like about the Gophers basketball program, what you're excited about moving forward, and something to hopefully, fingers crossed, be more excited about and get your hopes up for is Dennis Evans. He has set his decision date. It will be Monday the 17th coming up, and it is down to TCU in Minnesota. Now, Dennis Evans is the number 31 prospect in the entire nation, a former 5-star, right on the border, 4-star guy, 7'1" center, is able to handle the ball, is able to hit the three-pointer, is a shot-blocking monster and an interior presence that the Gophers haven't seen in quite some time. Haven't seen a big man of that caliber in maybe ever, but very, very long. It honestly feels like it could go either way, and Evans would be a huge, huge get for this program, a piece to build in this program and build a front court upon Pharrell Payne and Dennis Evans. That would be scary for the Big Ten for the next years to come. So fingers crossed that is something that the Gophers can make happen and would be a big win and finishing touch on this recruiting class. So that comes on Monday the 17th. Hopefully he's a Gopher. Now, from the women's program side of things, it seems like Coach Whalen seems to be excited for a year of improvements and the improvements that this team can show, but also seems to want to temper expectations and not set her young team up for immediate criticism as well. I do appreciate that she seems to be protecting her players while also instilling confidence and growth and self-accountability as well, and the improvements that are likely to be seen from a young Gophers women's basketball program. Love the coaches there, love the foundation that they're building, and it should be an exciting time to be a Gophers fan. On the flip side, with the men's team, the message seems to be very, very unified across the coaches and the players, and there's a palpable excitement for what is building and preparing players to find success even through injuries and youth and everything else that seems to poke its head out. The Gophers are looking to take it on full steam ahead. Now, the final thing I want to talk about with the men's program is Jameson Battle. He is ready, and really, he's ready to shake things up in the Big Ten in college basketball as a whole. He's in the best shape of his life, and the reason being, he spoke about being exhausted at the end of the season, and he wants to be able to improve even more. You can see the extra bounce on the hardwood. I saw that in the open practice that was open to the media. You can hear the confidence in anticipation, and Coach Ben Johnson sang Jamo's praises at the media days. Here was one quick bit that Coach Johnson had to say when it came to the preparation Battle put in over the offseason.
I think it says everything about him. You know, Jamo's a smart guy now, and he knows at this level to be that first team All Big Ten type player. I mean, you've got to be in great shape physically, and so you don't wear down, especially when a lot's on your plate. But I think he also knows, you know, you have aspirations at playing at the next level. You got to start that process now, and to even get to that next level, you know, you've got to look the part to a certain degree. And so, you know, he knew it, but we obviously have player meetings at the end of the year, and that was something we talked about. Is like, okay, you know, what's one thing you can improve on or work on in this off season? And sometimes it's not always stuff on the court, but it's, can you get into the best shape you've ever been in? And man, he took it and ran with it. And you know, the best part about it is, you know, some guys will do that, but then there's a time period where it's up and down. Like his has stayed consistent, his weight stayed consistent. And, you know, I just think you see a guy moving out there with supreme confidence right now.
So the hype and the discussion around Jameson Battle is growing locally and nationally. The goal is the pros, and the possibility seems like it could be certainly realistic. He came in on Andy Katz's top 15 breakout players for the season, came in at number 11, and he was also named to the preseason All Big Ten team. Jameson Battle is going to be a Gophers legend regardless of what he does, but he could really set his name apart this season, and we look forward to what he and the rest of his teammates are going to do at the barn this season. That's going to do it for us on today's show. This is Kane Rob signing off. I appreciate you listening. Be sure to subscribe. Tomorrow we are going to do predictions for the Illinois and Minnesota game, hopefully with our friend Tristan Spanford on the show as well, so be sure to tune in. Subscribe on YouTube. Row the boat. Sky you ma.